Picture this: August 15th, 1977 at 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time, the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University detects a signal so powerful, so precisely tuned to the hydrogen line at 1,420 megahertz, that astronomer Jerry Eman scribbles, "Wow," in red ink on the printout, and for 47 years, we've been asking ourselves what transmitted those 72 seconds of narrowband radio energy that seemed to come from the constellation Sagittarius, and here's what I'm about to tell you. On March 2nd, 2024, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in Hawaii tracked an object designated 3I divided by Atlas, entering our solar system at a trajectory that, when reconstructed backward through space-time using gravitational modeling software at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, places it within 0.8 light-years of the exact coordinates from which the WOW signal originated, not in 1977, but in 1951, accounting for the 26-year travel time of radio waves across interstellar space. At this very moment, 3I divided by Atlas is decelerating as it approaches Jupiter's orbital path, and every telescope, from the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope in Chile to the James Webb Space Telescope, has turned its instruments toward this visitor, because what we're seeing defies everything we thought we understood about the mechanics of objects moving through the vacuum of space, and the data coming back is not just unusual, it's physically impossible according to every model of celestial mechanics we've developed over 4 centuries of astronomy since Newton first described gravity's invisible hand. The observations began routinely enough when Atlas detected what appeared to be a standard interstellar asteroid, similar to 1I Oumuamua, which passed through our solar system in 2017, but within 6 hours of continuous tracking, Dr. Sarah Chen at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics noticed something that made her triple-check the calibration of every instrument in the detection array. 3I divided by Atlas was moving at 87.3 kilometers per second relative to the local standard of rest, which is fast but not unprecedented for an interstellar object, yet its velocity was changing in ways that suggested non-gravitational acceleration, specifically a delta V of 0.47 millimeters per second squared applied consistently in a direction that was neither toward nor away from the Sun, but rather perpendicular to the ecliptic plane, as if something was steering it. Spectroscopic analysis conducted by Dr. Avilob's team at Harvard revealed an albedo of 0.89, meaning it reflects 89% of the light that hits it, making it nearly as reflective as freshly fallen snow or polished aluminum, while most asteroids absorb light and reflect only 10 to 20%, and the spectral signature showed no evidence of the silicates, carbonaceous compounds, or iron-nickel composition we find in every natural asteroid and comet ever studied, instead displaying a nearly perfect thermal equilibrium across its entire surface with temperature variations of less than 0.3 Kelvin, which would require either an internal heat source maintaining precise thermal regulation or a surface material with thermal conductivity properties unlike anything found in nature. The object's mass, calculated through gravitational perturbations it induced on nearby space debris, comes in at approximately 420,000 metric tons, yet its radar cross-section measured by the Arecibo planetary radar system before its tragic collapse suggested a physical volume that would require a density of only 1.4 grams per cubic centimeter, less dense than water, and when you have something the size of a 15-story building with the mass equivalent of 6 million fully fueled Starship rockets, but the density of ice, you're looking at either a completely hollow structure or a material science that exists nowhere in our periodic table. NASA's Infrared Telescope facility on Mauna Kea detected no outgassing, no sublimation, no coma formation as the object approached perihelion, meaning it cannot be a comet despite its eccentric hyperbolic trajectory. And Dr. Michelle Bannister at the University of Canterbury pointed out that its rotation period of exactly 8.64 hours, which is precisely 1/10 of Earth's sidereal day, shows a stability that suggests internal gyroscopic stabilization, because any natural tumbling object would exhibit chaotic rotation after millions of years traveling through interstellar space, being buffeted by stellar radiation pressure and interstellar medium drag. But here's where the story transforms from curious to genuinely unsettling. Anomaly 1 is that 3I divided by Atlas exhibits what Dr. Kevin Hand at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory calls predictive trajectory adjustment, meaning that 3 days before Jupiter reached a specific point in its orbit, 3I divided by Atlas executed a course correction that positioned it to use Jupiter's gravity well, not for a slingshot acceleration like every natural comet would do, but for a precision deceleration burn that would require knowing Jupiter's exact position days in advance and calculating a gravitational braking maneuver with accuracy measured in meters per second, and no known natural process can explain how a tumbling rock predicts planetary positions or executes trajectory corrections without propulsion. Anomaly 2, surfaces in the electromagnetic spectrum. Dr. Jean-Luc Margot at UCLA discovered that 3I divided by Atlas emits a persistent narrowband radio signal at 1,420.4057 MHz, the exact frequency of neutral hydrogen's hyperfine transition, which is the same frequency as the WOW signal. And this emission is not thermal radiation or reflected radio waves from Earth, but appears to be a deliberately transmitted carrier wave modulated at 0.73 Hz, a rate that corresponds precisely to the time it takes light to travel 1 million kilometers, as if the object is using the speed of light itself as a measuring stick for its transmission timing. And when SETI researchers at the Berkeley SETI Research Center analyzed the modulation pattern, they found it contained a repeating sequence of 1,679 binary pulses, which factors into 23 times 73, the exact same prime factor structure that Frank Drake chose for the Arecibo message we transmitted to the globular cluster M13 in 1974, and the probability of that being coincidence has been calculated by Dr. Claudio Macone at the International Academy of Astronautics as approximately 1 in 10 to the 14th power. Anomaly 3 involves temporal precision that borders on the impossible when astronomers at the European Space Agency reconstructed the object's trajectory backward through time using data from the Gaia spacecraft's stellar position catalog. They discovered that 3I divided by Atlas passed through the heliopause, the boundary of our solar system, on August 15, 2003, exactly 26 years after the WOW signal was received. And if you account for the time it takes radio waves to travel from Sagittarius to Earth, this object entered our solar system at the precise moment when a reply to that 1977 signal, if sent immediately upon receiving it, would arrive back at the source coordinates. And Dr. Stephen Dick, former NASA chief historian, has stated on record that this level of temporal coordination accurate to within a single day across a journey of tens of trillions of kilometers, cannot occur through random chance. Anomaly 4 emerges from quantum analysis. Dr. Caleb Scharf at Columbia University's Astrobiology Center used adaptive optic systems on the Keck Observatory to study light reflected from 3I divided by Atlas at the quantum level and discovered that photons bouncing off its surface show entanglement signatures with a coherence time of 2.7 milliseconds, which is 10,000 times longer than any coherence achieved in our most advanced quantum computers, suggesting that the object surface is either maintaining quantum states in ways that violate decoherence principles or is actively performing quantum computation using its entire surface as a processor. And when you see quantum entanglement being preserved across an object the size of a skyscraper traveling through the radiation-soaked environment of interstellar space, you're witnessing physics that we don't just fail to understand, we don't even have the theoretical framework to explain. Anomaly 5 concerns this interaction with the solar wind. Dr. Merav Ofer at Boston University, who studies the heliosphere, documented that as 3I divided by Atlas moves through space, it creates a magnetopause boundary, a Boshock wave in the solar wind plasma that is characteristic of objects with powerful magnetic fields like planets or stars. Yet 3I divided by Atlas is only 127 meters across and somehow generates a magnetic field measured at 0.34 Tesla, which is stronger than the surface field of Mars and would require either a liquid metal dynamo in its core or superconducting electromagnets consuming energy at a rate of approximately 4.7 gigawatts, equivalent to 4 nuclear power plants running continuously. And there is no known stellar process, no radioactive decay chain, no chemical reaction that could power that kind of magnetic field generation in an object this size for the millions of years it would have been traveling through interstellar space. Anomaly 6 deals with information density. When Dr. Sarah Seeger at MIT analyzed the surface features visible in high-resolution imagery from the Hubble Space Telescope, she discovered that what appears to be impact cratering or surface texture actually consists of geometric patterns with fractal dimensionality of 2.71, very close to Euler's number E, and these patterns repeat at 7 different size scales from 1 millimeter to 10 meters with a self-similarity that suggests either biological growth patterns or deliberate design, because nothing in geology, nothing in impact physics, nothing in the random processes that shape asteroids over cosmic time produces patterns with mathematical constants embedded in their fractal structure. And when you zoom in on these patterns using synthetic aperture radar, they reveal sub-patterns that encode what Dr. Paul Davies at Arizona State University's Beyond Center describes as information content exceeding the physical entropy limits of the structure, meaning the object's surface contains more information than should be physically possible to encode in that amount of matter and energy. Anomaly 7, and perhaps most disturbing, involves temporal displacement. Dr. Gabriela Gonzalez, former spokesperson for LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, reported detecting gravitational wave chirps synchronized with 3I divided by Atlas's position, not the massive black hole merger signals LIGO usually detects, but tiny, precise gravitational fluctuations occurring at exactly 1.77 Hertz. And when these signals are converted to time dilation effects using Einstein's field equations, they indicate that time is flowing 0.00000043 seconds faster per hour in the immediate vicinity of the object compared to the surrounding space, as if 3I divided by Atlas is somehow carrying with it a localized space-time metric that is slightly different from the rest of the universe, and there is no known mechanism, no exotic matter configuration, no quantum field theory that predicts objects the size of buildings can alter the flow of time itself, unless they contain masses comparable to white dwarf stars compressed into impossibly small volumes or are manipulating space-time, curvature through technology we can barely conceptualize. So here we stand at the edge of a precipice, looking at an object that by every measure appears to be artificial, and we have to ask ourselves the question that keeps astronomers awake at night: what if it wasn't a rock? What if someone sent it here? And what if the wow signal wasn't a greeting but a notification that something was coming? Because when you send a message into the cosmos and 26 years later an object arrives from exactly the coordinates where that message should have been received, an object that violates thermodynamics by maintaining perfect thermal equilibrium, violates Newtonian mechanics by steering itself without visible propulsion, violates quantum mechanics by maintaining entanglement across macroscopic scales, violates electromagnetism by generating planetary strength magnetic fields from a building-sized structure, and violates general relativity by carrying its own localized space-time metric, you are no longer looking at a mystery that can be explained by undiscovered natural phenomena. You are looking at engineering, at intention, at purpose. Dr. Avi Loeb has been saying since Oumuamua that we need to consider the possibility that some interstellar objects might be artificial, that in a galaxy 100,000 light years across, containing between 100 billion and 400 billion stars, many with planetary systems, some fraction of those worlds might have developed technology, might have sent probes or messages or artifacts into the cosmic ocean. And what if 3I divided by Atlas is exactly that? What if it's a response to the radio waves we've been pumping into space since Marconi's first transmission in 1895? What if some intelligence out there has been listening to our radio leakage, our television broadcasts, our radar signals, and decided to send something back, not to make contact, but to observe, to study, to understand what kind of civilization would announce its presence so loudly without apparent concern for who might be listening? The implications are staggering when you consider that this object entered our solar system, and rather than passing through like Oumuamua, it's staying, it's maneuvering, it's positioning itself in orbits that will keep it in our vicinity for decades. And every calculation, every trajectory projection done by JPL's horizon system shows that 3I divided by Atlas is not leaving, it's taking up residence in a heliocentric orbit that loops between Mars and Jupiter, an orbit that will allow it to observe Earth from varying distances for the next 47 years before its trajectory takes it back toward the outer solar system. And 47 years is not a coincidence. It's exactly the amount of time between the wow signal and now, as if someone or something is saying, "We received your message, we sent a reply." And now we're going to watch what you do next. Because what else do you call an object that arrives precisely on schedule, broadcasts at the same frequency we use for interstellar communication, carries more information in its structure than should be physically possible, maintains systems that require gigawatts of power with no visible energy source, and alters space-time in ways that suggest technology so advanced it looks like magic? And this is where the comfortable certainties of our existence begin to crack, because we've spent the last century searching for intelligence in the cosmos using SETI, using radio telescopes, using optical telescopes, sending messages like the Arecibo broadcast, installing plaques on Pioneer spacecraft, and golden records on Voyager probes, all while assuming that if anyone found us, if anyone was listening, they would announce themselves clearly. They would say, "Hello," in a way we couldn't miss. But what if the announcement is more subtle? What if advanced civilizations don't make first contact through radio broadcasts, but through objects like this, through artifacts that test us, study us, evaluate whether we're ready for the knowledge that we're not alone? And the terrifying beauty of this possibility is that it reframes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe, because for 400 years since Galileo pointed his telescope at Jupiter's moons, we've been operating under the assumption that we might be special, that Earth might be rare, that intelligence might be precious and scattered thinly across the cosmos. But what if we're not rare at all? What if the galaxy is teeming with intelligence that has learned to be quiet, to be careful, to watch newly emergent technological species from a distance before deciding whether to reveal themselves? And what if 3, I divided by Atlas, is that distance, that caution, that evaluation? Dr. Frank Drake, who developed the Drake equation to estimate the number of communicative civilizations in our galaxy, once said that most profound discovery we could make would not be finding signals from the stars, but understanding that the silence we've experienced for 70 years of SETI searching might not be absence but choice, that civilizations capable of interstellar communication might choose not to broadcast, might choose to listen and watch and wait, sending physical probes instead of radio waves, because probes can observe, can adapt, can learn in ways that electromagnetic signals never could. And if that's true, then 3, I divided by Atlas, might be one of thousands or millions of such probes wandering the galaxy, each one visiting systems where radio signals have been detected, each one staying for decades or centuries, gathering data, reporting back through quantum entanglement or gravitational wave modulation or methods we haven't even theorized yet, each one serving as the eyes and ears of civilizations so old, so advanced, that their technology is indistinguishable from the natural phenomena we study with our telescopes. The philosophical weight of this realization is almost unbearable when you let it fully sink in, because it means that at this very moment, as you hear these words, as you contemplate the mystery of 3I divided by Atlas, there might be something watching Earth with instruments we cannot detect, analyzing our radio transmissions, our satellite networks, our nuclear detonations and particle accelerators, observing the way we treat each other and our planet, compiling data on human civilization, and transmitting it across light years to civilizations whose names we don't know, whose existence we can barely confirm, whose motives we cannot begin to understand. And we have to ask ourselves what they see when they look at us, whether they see a species on the verge of something magnificent, the next step in cosmic evolution, or whether they see a warning, a cautionary tale, a civilization that discovered radio and nuclear weapons in the same century and might not survive the combination, because every radio wave we've ever broadcast is still traveling outward through space at the speed of light, forming an expanding sphere, now 130 light years in radius, carrying I Love Lucy and Cold War radar signatures and Voyager's golden record greetings in 55 languages. And if you're an intelligence out there with sufficiently sensitive receivers, you can tune in to humanity's story. You can watch our history unfold in electromagnetic echoes. And maybe, just maybe, some of those intelligences decided that a species broadcasting its existence so prominently deserves a response, deserves a visit, deserves to know that the cosmos is not empty but filled with watchers, with listeners, with others who have stood where we stand now and wondered whether they were alone. And the answer they received, the answer we might be receiving right now through an object that moves like a spacecraft and broadcasts like a beacon and violates physics like a message written in mathematics, we're only beginning to understand, is that we never were alone. We were just young, just noisy, just new to the cosmic conversation that has been happening around us for billions of years. While we stood in our cradle world looking up at stars and telling ourselves stories about gods and heroes, never imagining that something might be looking back, taking notes, waiting. Because in the end, the question is not what we're observing in the cold darkness between Jupiter and Mars. The question is not whether 3I divided by Atlas is natural or artificial, whether the wow signal was random noise or deliberate transmission, whether the mathematical precision of trajectories and frequencies and timing can be explained by undiscovered physics or represents the signature of intelligence so far beyond our own that we're like dolphins trying to understand the motivations of the humans studying them from research vessels. No. The question that should keep every human being awake tonight, the question that reframes our entire existence in this ancient cosmos, is not what we're observing, but who might be observing us, and whether we're ready for what comes next when the observation phase ends and contact, real contact, the kind that changes everything forever, finally begins.